Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. There.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear now.
Marvellous.
So let's crack on then. How's your week been?
I think you should go first because I need to warn you I've got 3 pages of notes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and none of them are about the focus.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I'm delighted to hear that. We went on what's happened? We went on a sister's trip to see Dad yesterday.
All three of you?
Yeah, all 3 of us sat in the garden, at which he announced he was off back to New Zealand.
Forever?
Well, one could argue that it might not be forever, but then he says, I'm not getting any younger girls, so you might never.
I think New Zealand's probably quite a good place to live at the moment.
Well, he says that if he's going to live out here the rest of, because he's done a triple heart bypass a while ago, about a year ago, and he says that it's absolutely no fun living in England when he can't get on the bus to go down the pub, and he can't get on the bus to go down the town, and he can't go to any restaurants that he loves food and wine and stuff, and he can't go to any restaurants. And he said, it's just no fun living like this. I think his wife's had him on a fairly strict regime as well at home, which has not been much fun for him. So he's had no escape for that. But
how old is he, Nicola?
He's not as old as you would think. He's quite. My mum married him when he was a whippersnapper, so I think he's about mid-70s, late 70s.
Okay, but what he's saying is that once you get to that stage of life, quality of life's important.
Absolutely, and he said, because they're ex-residents, they were there for 15 years, and they went in on the entrepreneur ticket and owned businesses and things. They're welcome back any time. But what they've decided to do, because they've made quite a bit of money on the house they've bought, done up, and lived in here. They're going to rent over there because they've realised that their pensions all added up would cover all their living expenses if they rented, and then they can keep their capital liquid and invest it, so they
wouldn't keep this one and rent it out.
No.
Okay.
They really just want a simple, easy life now.
Yeah.
They're both pretty sprightly, he's very sprightly. They garden a lot, and he walks and everything. They're not young, they're not old people.
No, I know, I do know what you mean. Yes.
And so we all just went, well, good on you, Dad. Live your best life. Off you go.
Yes.
We'll come and see you if we can. If we don't, and if you come back, that's great. And if you don't, then at least we know you're having a great life. So
what have they got to do? Put the house on the market, or are they off before that?
No, they're gonna do what they did last time in reverse, which is that Dad's gonna go. No, Eileen's gonna go first. She's gonna go and find them somewhere to rent, and then they're gonna send the cat over because they've got a cat called Hardy. They had Nelson, but he died sadly, and he's going to be put on so that she's out of her quarantine at the other end 14 days before Hardy arrives.
Okay.
And they've put the house on the market already. They're going to get a great price for it. And Dad's going to supervise the packing up and shipping off of their belongings.
And does she or anybody have any friends or family out there? Who's she going to stay with while she's looking?
Out there who came to live out there when they were living out there.
Yeah.
So that's a big draw. She's also got family in Australia because she had a son who lived there who sadly died, but his remaining children and everything are there.
Yep.
So, there's quite a lot to draw her specifically down to that end of the world. But as Dad said, while he was there, all his mates sort of died, which was a bit sad, but he can always make new ones,
Yes.
He's a very convivial bloke, my dad.
Yes.
And so he just feels that they'd have better quality of what's left of their lives out there. Especially as he was quite assertive about it as well. He said, I'm not going to live like this.
I thoroughly endorse his decision.
Yeah. So we all sort of just sat there really and thought, oh, well, okay. So, you can't grudge anyone living their best life, can you?
No, my brother always used to say when he lived in the Far East that he saw more of me than when they live in the UK because you have to sort of make an effort. I mean, I know New Zealand's to hell and gone, but the people that we know that listen to this podcast that live in New Zealand, I talk to them, and it seems like a nice place to live.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, I think they were a bit far out of town last time where they were. They lived in some sort of really nice residential development, but Sarah said it was about 45 minutes to the nearest
Do you
town.
remember outside of which town?
Taronga.
All right, okay.
Yeah. So they're going back to Taronga area because they loved it, but they're going to be more into town now, I think.
Okay.
And the other thing is I've got a brand new iPhone 11 Plus Pro, which is rather gorgeous. And I've also just bought one of those pens so you can use your notes app. You know, you don't know anything about any of this.
I do, yes, I do, because you can get those pens to use with your iPad.
Yes, exactly. So exactly. So you can do it on your phone as well. So I got one of those. And I'm just about to do my first Facebook Live demonstrating how to be overwhelmed. And I'm going to use my pen if all goes well.
Okay.
A bit of tech gadget too far, but never mind. You know me. And that's pretty much it. I went out to Poker Pete said, come and have a drink around the corner before, because I'm coming back through town before we play poker. And we ended up never playing poker. We ended up staying for dinner. First time I've had dinner out at the rather nice restaurant around the corner called Tap House. It's got a lot of outside seating. So we sat outside for a while. Not very warm, I might add, even though it was a hot day yesterday. It's just not warm enough for me here. I can't even take the cardi off.
What was the expression you used to describe your father in terms of him being very sociable? Do you remember? Well, because you and Pete are the same, is my point.
What's that?
Well, being with a human being last night was more important than playing poker.
It was, yes. It's, and we had a good old chat, and I've got some news for you on that front. So
we'll that fits in here, or that goes. Oh,
no, we'll talk afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So what else? Have I done anything else? No, the kids have had lots of people round. No, we've spent a bit of time on the AstroTurf. That's pretty much it, really.
Okay. All right.
What about you then?
Well, I'm going to tell you a story today, Nicola. Are you sitting comfortably?
I am. I've got one for you as well later.
And this very much speaks to our focus of the week, although that's a complete fluke. And our focus of the week is going to be Know Your Worth. Because I certainly didn't know mine at the time in my life when these events took place. And I do now. And perhaps hard lessons are just one of the ways we learn. So, Once upon a time, there was a man in the 80s and 90s, and it ended badly. I always say that he left me £300,000 in debt, and that's partly true. All the debt we created together as investors was run up in my name, and when interest rates went to 18%, the rest is history. I had to do an IVA. And when we ended, the problem stayed with me. It was always mine, really, because the debt was in my name. He was the man that my dad called the work-shy rogue, if you remember.
I do, yes.
And he never worked a day in his life, despite being qualified as a solicitor, possibly even a barrister. He just lived off women. That's what he did. And we had some good times and we had some awful times. And he's one of my 2 red mist people. And he was my first red mist person, actually. He caused me so much anger that I would lose it. And once I had to redecorate the kitchen. Well, at least once I had to redecorate the kitchen because of what I threw at him one night, I remember. And when I used to live locally to where he lived when he lived in London, which was sort of Claphamish, I used to bump into his old drinking buddies for years after he and I had finished, and occasionally I would say to them, "Is he dead yet?" And we'd laugh because they knew what a mean monster he could be. And there was no love lost between him and me. Our relationship ended with threats on both sides. He went first and I responded, and I never heard from him ever again. He'd never paid a bean in tax or national insurance, and I threatened to dob him in. That was my big weapon, and I was saving it as a big gun. But another chap persuaded me to use it first, not last, and it worked like a charm. And it made me wonder why I hadn't used it earlier. Perhaps I was just too nice. Anyway, the point of this story is, of late, my intuition has been telling me to Google to see if he's alive or dead. And I finally got around to it on Sunday night, I think it was. And I discovered a funeral notice online that he died on the 4th of April, 2018. He would have been, I think, 68. Yes, he was born in 1950. He was buried in his little local family church that I'd been to visit with him in Shropshire, and he was buried on the 27th of April 2018, which is my birthday, and that gave me a bit of a lol moment, you know. Although he was a very private man, and there is nothing about him online about his life. Everything about his death is online. I'm going to tell you much more about that later in Who or What's Impressed. And he would hate that. But I could see that somebody had put together a brilliant funeral service for him, despite him not being a God botherer. And there was a nice Keane song in which, when his coffin was taken out to be buried in the churchyard, that was playing. I think he probably would have liked that Keane song. And it said, "Oh, simple thing, where have you gone? I'm getting older and I need something to rely on." Quite sad, really. Not that I cried. I felt absolutely nothing. So no condolences are required. Thanks very much. But he never expected to make old bones. Both of his parents and his favourite auntie all died of cancer very young and when he was a young man. And he imagined that would be his fate too. And I'm being put in touch with his sister, who I hope will tell me what happened, but it looks like he died of post complications, and I don't actually yet know what the operation was for. He was a mean drunk, and I've notified everybody in my life who might possibly be vaguely interested, and they total 4 people, and not a one of them has expressed any regret at his passing.
Oh, how awful.
That's a tragic story, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that is a tragic story. I didn't know that.
Do you know, no, the funny thing is, my intuition's been saying to me for quite a long time, go and find out if he's alive or dead on Google. And literally, you know how you have this idea and then you don't do it now, and you have this idea and you don't do it now, and you have this idea and you don't do it now. Sunday or Monday, whenever it was I got around to it, it's like, what's taken me so long to look this up? Well, it took 2 years to look it up, basically, because he died in 2018.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've got more on that topic later.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, tell me what's fueled your fire.
What's fueled my fire is I'm gearing up for another 5-day challenge in the beginning of September.
Oh my God, so soon already? Oh, at the beginning of September, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I did the last one on the 6th of July, and there's going to be two whole months in between, and I thought I just can't wait until the end of September to do it. Also, I'm thinking of, I want to clear my decks in case I do want to pop over to Stupa for a week or two.
And have you got a date for this September one?
Yes, I have. The 7th of September, it will be starting. And if you go to clicksandleads.com/5 days, the number 5 days, you will see the countdown timer has been changed and you can opt in to claim your seat. Free, of course. And I've had 3 lovely testimonials from the last one. And also, my client who signed up from it is very happy indeed. New Zealand, you see, keeps popping up today, New Zealand.
Yes.
And she said, that's the one who said, I did a little dance when I paid my money.
Yes.
Awesome. And so that's really filled my fire because I'm gagging to get going on it again, because I just keep seeing people who are they seem to think it's such a massive mountain to climb to produce social media content, and it really isn't once you follow a system. So I'm going to use my own system to create 12 bits of content that will promote the challenge, which will
brilliant.
So really walking my talk, and I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
What about you?
12 bits of content. Self-promote. Okay, good. I've got 2 things in here. On Monday and Tuesday this week, I had 3 brilliant coaching calls, 2 of them back-to-back on Tuesday afternoon. It's a very long time since I've done coaching calls back-to-back. And all 3 of them were either with full-time or part-time writers, 2 of them about writing and books, and 1 about a thorny financial problem which I had no idea how to solve, but I was absolutely convinced that the client and I would be able to co-create a solution and reach a good place before the end of the call, which is exactly what happened. But there's a big energy that comes in my life. It's interesting because this will go to the challenge as well about knowing your worth. Big energy, that positive energy that comes in my life when I know I've helped 3 people in 2 days.
Yeah.
But also, last week I told you I'd taken up writing again, 750 words on 750words.com, if you remember.
Yeah.
And this week I've switched to an app because 750 words was only on my laptop, and it meant I had to go into the laundry room and crank it up. But I thought, I'm doing the words and I'm thinking, like an app for this really, then I could do it out by the fish pond or on the settee or in bed. And I found this very nice app called Morning Pages, which allows, actually it says when you log into it the first time, it says 750 words is quite challenging. It suggested I might like to start with 250 or 500. So I did start with 500, and like 750 words, it analyzes your underlying emotion. I tried to bullshit it on the first day that I was feeling brave, but it told me I was feeling fearful, which is quite a useful thing to know. And I like the new app a lot because lots of better functionality. So because it's easier to type on it, I did it out by the.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, because I do it on my. Everything I do app-wise is on my iPad, so it's quite big.
How do you type on your iPad?
With my fingers.
What? Just like your forefingers? Or do you type it like...
Well, it depends. If I'm sitting on my bed and holding it with one hand, I type it with one finger on the other. If I'm out by the fish pond, I can put the little foldy cover thing in a place where I can use both hands.
Oh, so have you got something that comes down and makes a keyboard then?
No, the iPad has an inbuilt keyboard.
Oh, I've never been able to use that.
You haven't tried? Because I'm getting quite good with my iPad because I haven't had a desk for so long.
Okay, yeah.
Which is what made me crave an an app instead of going to the laptop. But anyway, the point is it encourages the words because it's so much easier. It self-corrects rather than 750 words, which uses Grammarly. And so, it's just handier, really. Now, however, so everything on 750 words, including some gorgeous analysis, is free. But the functionality on this will be £2.79 a month or £27 a year, which is still very affordable. And I think I've got to set myself up for a free week because I did the first day yesterday and it gave me all this free information. Today it didn't give me any free information because it wants me to sign up and pay. But, fair enough, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I think it's worth more. It's worth more to me in terms of flexibility to pay £27 a year to be able to use it anywhere than it is to have to go into the office and crank up the laptop to do it for free.
Yeah, absolutely. And Morning Pages, it sounds like it's from the Artist's Way.
Well, I don't know whether they've borrowed that name from her or licensed that name from her, but I mean, obviously, the whole point of this, whether it's 750 words or this app or any kind of daily writing, is Morning Pages.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope they would have licensed it if it's not a spin-off from her.
Well, it doesn't make that clear if it is a spin-off from her. Yeah. That's all I can say so far. But I'm only on day 2. But it's much preferable, and it's turned it from a slog into fun.
Yeah, okay, so let's go on to Focus of the Week then.
Indeed, right. Speaking of New Zealand, this comes from Kerryn, who's been on our show before.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about knowing your worth. In fact, she said something like that hoary old chestnut, or let's go back to that thing, or it's still knowing my worth. And the funny thing about this, and I love Kerryn very much, is that she's got chutzpah up the yin-yang. She travels the world talking. She's written a book. She didn't hesitate to come on our podcast. She's very confident. She's been doing Facebook Lives during lockdown of her playing her guitar. So she looks like a confident, get up and go type. But what she says remains an issue for her is knowing her worth.
Mm. Well, I've been through I started out not knowing my worth, and then I've been through various ups and downs about it. And the things I've written down here are, it's very much a matter of confidence. And when I lost it in 2010, I went out and tried to be confident and know my worth and sell my marketing services, but I couldn't do it for love nor money because the real confidence wasn't there. And then I thought the only way that you get confidence, and how did I get my confidence back in that time, was actually doing the thing. So I think that if you are struggling to know your worth, the best way to find it is to deliver the thing you want to deliver and see what worth and value other people get out of it. And then that gives you confidence again. And then the other thing I've written down is don't imagine others are as poor as you, because it makes it a lot easier to charge what you think you're worth if you stop thinking that other people are poor, because a lot of people have got, you taught me this, you don't know what's in people's bank accounts. And then the thing is, if you're not paying for stuff, then you probably don't feel very confident in charging for stuff, because it's only, for example, with coaching, it's only when you start paying a coach that you start to feel confident in charging as a coach, because you know what value you're getting from your own coach. And although that can lead to a horrible pyramid-shaped thing, which a lot of people call, a Ponzi scheme, it actually isn't. You can't. I don't think you can really confidently charge as a coach without knowing the value you give, and you can only get that from actually working with clients, paying or otherwise. What are your thoughts?
Interestingly, Kerryn's issue and everybody else's that we've done in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we don't really know enough about the question to answer the question, it feels to me. So, for instance, you and I typically have gone straight to money, but that may not be the issue here. It may be, for instance, she's never really, she and her partner live what looks like an idyllic life, and they're not fibbers. She's never really suggested that it's charging enough or not charging enough that's the issue, and I don't really know what the issue is here. I've posted on my Facebook page a timely meme that came up this morning, as they always do, that says, if you find yourself trying to prove your worth to someone, you've already forgotten your value.
Oh, that's nice.
So we might need to, in fact, I couldn't remember all week whether this one was called Knowing Your Worth or Knowing Your Value. And I see from this meme, it's a distinction. And if it is about charging, then the only thing that makes a difference is charging a big chunk of money, or charging and people paying you. And the interesting thing that all my clients eventually discover is that the more you charge, the easier it is, because you move out of the realm of the skint and scarce, as you've inferred here. Actually, I don't know whether I mean inferred. Marion always picks me up. I get that word wrong, as you've suggested. So I think the other thing is, if it is putting of, I'm just going to say one more thing about money, because it may not be money, then I'm going to go to the rest of it. If it is about putting a price on your worth, I'm not convinced it is yet, then what's really interesting is to decide to put your prices at a stretchy value now, and that you will, and remind yourself that you will always put them up every 1st January or every 6 months or something like that. But if you start low, you'll never catch up. But the market will tell you when you've hit a ceiling.
Yeah. But, there was that old saying, wasn't there, that you can double your prices and lose half your clients and still be making more profit.
Yes. And let us address that, but then let's go on to the rest of it, because the rest of it might not be about money. It might be about, hang on, now my phone's ringing, which, as we all know, never happens. Hold on. Hang on a sec. I'm podcasting. May I call you back in about half an hour? Okay. I think there are other ways of feeling worthless or feeling undervalued. And they might include doing too much for free for other people. And I don't mean free like not for a fee. I mean, giving away all your time and all your expertise and all your energy to other people who might not reflect back. They might just take without giving.
Yeah.
This isn't necessarily about money. Do you know what I mean by that? It's like, it might be about self-esteem, which, again, she looks so confident. I can't believe it's that. But we are complicated human beings. And I think there's many ways to, lots of people in my book, lots of the contributors to my book, mums particularly, could never get in the office to do their own work because their own family in the house and beyond the house expected too much of them. You're always at home. You can do this for me. You can take in a parcel. You can run an errand, all of that kind of stuff. And not being able to say no, brackets, I'm worth more than this, might be part of this. I doubt it with Kerryn, because she's nice. And she's strong. But I love to give myself away as well as charging. And if I choose to give my energy or time or anything as a gift, and I'm going to talk about this more in project updates, then that doesn't reduce my sense of my worth.
Yeah, and you do,
because it was my choice. Do you see?
Absolutely. But it doesn't hurt to make people aware that you would normally charge for something if you do something.
Well, I agree to say this is what I do for a living. And do you remember with the old debate we always used to have about people saying, do you mind if I pick your brains? Well, here's my consultancy page. Buy a session, I'll meet you in the coffee shop.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. There's nothing worse than that. Oh, that expression is just horrendous. But there's been so many very funny videos of people giving their response to that I would implore, if you really don't feel very confident about dealing with that question, then just go and Google pick pick your brains video.
Yeah.
But yeah, and to be honest, it's again, like you say, we're assuming one thing, and also it's not just about Kerryn asking the question. That's why we've chosen these questions.
Yeah,
because they are so
well. Somebody else asked it as well. Actually, 2 or 3 other people said yes. I back up that request.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's a woman thing, but it isn't, because the men that listen to our show are very nice and very nice. Some of them are even nicer than me, and they might struggle with this as well. Well, do you know what I mean? I'm quite tough these days. I wasn't in the days of the story that I told you at the beginning, but I am quite tough these days. And you and we had a laugh yesterday, didn't we? Because I said, somebody sent me this request this morning saying, would you like to come on a blah-de-blah-de-blah? And I said, no.
4-hour webinar.
Yeah. Would you like to come on a 4-hour webinar that'd be very affordable and fun about NLP anchoring? To which I replied, no. I mean, I didn't even say,
no, thank you.
No, I don't think I did. I think I said no. Then I went, but I appreciate you asking, and I hope it goes very well. Good luck with that, or something like that. I mean, I wished him well, but I didn't let it drain. Now here we go. Let's all have a think about this. Kerryn and everybody else, you, me included, not necessarily now. What drains your sense of your worth?
Yes, and it's so interesting because I brought up my children to have a really strong sense of their own self-worth, but they still, occasionally, not Nelson so much, suffer from self-esteem issues. And I was thinking, Phoebe said something the other day, and I thought, I never brought you up to think like that. Where did you pick that up from?
Yeah, but you weren't the only influence on her growing up.
No. Where do people get their own sense of self-worth bashed out of them?
Well, what you learn in the end about self-worth is it's a given. You get up in the morning and you're entitled to it.
Yeah.
You don't have to earn it.
No.
But if you let that sort of reservoir drain, you've got to find a way of replenishing that.
Yes.
And one of the ways is not to give everything of yourself away. And it isn't just money, it's time, it's energy, and funnily enough, when people make requests of me, I get the answer in my body straight away. No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you instinctively feel whether it's...
I do. I've got my hands on my chest now. I know in my sort of heart, gut, I don't want to do that. Thank you, no.
You crack me up.
I don't want to do that, no. And I think straight away. And sometimes you have to override the nice girl.
Yeah.
I mean, Kerryn, with the greatest of respect, you don't look like a nice girl. You look like a tough go-getter.
Yes, someone who's very powerful. But
yes,
we're all pussycats inside, you see.
Well, we are all pussycats inside. Yeah. So actually, I think the answer is one no at a time, one notch at a time, one fee increase at a time, one paying client at a time, and then it all adds up.
One of my clients, I encouraged her to. She was, charging by the hour, and I said, "Well, you've got to stop that straight away. Stop that nonsense."
Yeah.
People buy a batch of 6 hours or 9 hours or 12 hours, and they get a very small discount if they do that. And the thing is, every single person she's put that proposal to has gone for it. Some of them, and then she's just decided she only wants to take client calls on one day. And, as is the way, everyone else was just suggesting any old random day that worked for them. And now she's happily got them all corralled into one day. And one person made a little tiny bit of a fuss, but, she stuck her guns and that person was able to do that. So,
well, I think what that proves, and I think that's a good suggestion, is, don't bend over backwards. Find a compromise that works for both parties.
Yeah. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And
yeah.
It's no reflection on you. So, and I had another story this week of someone who rescued a business, put in a lot of money, nearly 6 figures, to help a friend by buying into his business. He worked with him for 6 years, travelling up and down to Cornwall. And he's just found out that the friend has now decided that he's taken the money back out over the years, but only when the business could afford it. And then they were supposed to go forward now with both splitting a proportion of the profits. And what has happened is he's found that his business colleague has drained the bank account, started telling everyone that he was trying to rip him off. And I said to him, I've heard this story so many times. It's almost like people forget what you've done and they start to think they could have done it all themselves all along. And now they don't, when it comes to the point of sharing the profits going forward, they don't want to do it. They get greedy. And that's, but he said, well, he could, that's it now. He's not a friend. He's not a business colleague.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's not going to go.
No, I like the way men do that. I really like the way. That's what this chap helped me, not the bad guy, but the good guy helped me do by sending my big weapon in first. He said, don't hang on, just hit him with the big weapon. And that's what men do. They do black and white.
Yes, and it didn't totally wasn't affecting my friend's sense of self-worth. The fact that he didn't think,
no. It speaks about it's entirely about the other person, isn't it?
Yeah,
behaving badly. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you.
But women sometimes, and I do think this is true, we would examine ourselves and see where we could have done better or gone, oh, well, like that. That's how I feel anyway. I'm always, because I try to take total responsibility. That's
what my meme says. Yeah. If you find yourself trying to prove your worth to someone, you've already forgotten your value.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I've written down 3 things while you were talking. Kerryn, have you got testimonials? What are they telling you about your worth?
Oh, yes.
And when you talked about buying bunches of hours, actually, you can do it better than that. You can do it like by a project. So a value billing, so we're going to do a project together. I've no idea how long it'll take, but it'll cost this.
Or you can do even better, the $1 million consulting book, the $1 million consulting book by, I think it's Alan Weiss. He gets your head shifted around completely, which is where you talk about the potential upside of a project.
Well, you've actually you've spoken over my note, which is when I was training to be a coach. When we had the sales conversation with the client, we worked out what they want. We were trained to ask them, what would that be worth to you?
Yes.
And then you agree a price.
Yes.
And off you go. But again, we're back to the money, you and I typically.
Well, yes, I suppose so. Because there's only 2 things in life, really, isn't there? It's money and love, and that's a whole other.
Well, I think Kerryn is probably very much loved and appreciated, and that's why I said go to the testimonials and the feedback. I think I've got one more note here, which is when somebody asks you to do something, and before you give yourself away, say that sounds really interesting. What's the brief and what's your budget?
Oh, see, I try to drum that into Phoebe all the time. What's the brief and what's the budget?
Yeah, because it's so crisp and businesslike. I mean, Kerryn's in Australia, and I know she does a lot of travelling. What we want to know is she going to travel for a speaker's fee and expenses? What is it they want her to deliver, and what will they pay for it? What makes it worth leaving home? The supermodel question, isn't it? I don't get out of bed for less than $2,000 a day, and I'm imagining that's a lot more these days.
Yeah, exactly.
We used to say that for 20 years. It's probably about, I don't know, 20 grand a day, is it? I don't know.
Who knows? But yes, you've got to surround yourself as well with people who appreciate you, because if you're constantly surrounded by people who laugh at what you charge and say, oh, I'd never pay. We've all had friends like that, haven't we?
Friends and family are never going to be your ideal clients, are they?
No, they're not, no. And so you've got to surround yourself with people who believe in you and who bolster your sense of self-worth, because it can be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Eroding.
Yes.
Your confidence if you're constantly having the mickey taken out of you.
Yes.
Which is not.
I just think there's more than one way to give it all away, and either of them will drain your sense of your own worth.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when people ask for freebies and stuff like that, is have something ready to give them. Have a white paper, or I've just made a document, because so many people are asking me about Bitcoin now, because it's obviously going up again, and people suddenly want to hear all about it. And I could just spend my whole time repeating the same thing over and over. So I've prepared a little document that I've just sent people a link to.
And after that, you could offer them a paid consultation if they want to take it.
Exactly. Yeah. But you've got to ring fence your time and ring fence your feelings. And also, I was just reminded of the fluffy sock thing. My first coach ever, Rachel Turner, used to try and get me to do these fluffy sock things, which were about upgrading how I looked after myself. And I totally didn't get it in those days. It used to annoy the hell out of me. But I really get it now. Looking after yourself and giving yourself little treats tells you internally that you are worth it.
There's a marvellous expression in the film industry, and a chap I knew who taught me this. Whenever we invited him in a business I was the accountant in to do something for us, he would say, do you want it good or do you want it Thursday? Which means, do you want it good or do you want it cheap or do you want it timely? It's not a bad question to ask people, isn't it? Are you trying to get this on a shoestring, or do you? And funnily enough, there was a client this week I was agreeing this with. When somebody pays you a budget that's worthwhile, you can do your best work.
Yeah.
Or you can do a cramped, cheap job that doesn't satisfy you or them.
Yes. So yeah, well, that's the Venn diagram, isn't it? Is price, speed, and quality.
But Kerryn, we're guessing. So give us some pointers in the Facebook group to see if we've covered any or all of your issues, and if not, we'll take it on from there. But fascinating really, that somebody who looks so super confident and seems to be doing so well in many ways that we both admire, that you still feel this is your issue. So I wonder if it's true. You could ask yourself the Byron Katie questions. The thing about is it when you worry, is it true? Before we go there, when you find yourself doubting your worth, so question your doubts. Is that true? And if you say yes, the next question is that absolutely true? And the answer's usually no. It's like some kind of thing you've made up.
Yes. Is there any circumstances under which that might be true? All those roundabout questions.
Yeah. I'm really appreciating this question coming from somebody who looks in such a great place in life.
Yes.
Because it's a vulnerability again, isn't it? And that's so valuable to do that for other people.
Yeah, and I'm sure this discussion has been incredibly helpful for other people as well.
I agree, and thanks for that, Kerryn. Now, shall we move swiftly along?
Yes, word of the week.
Yes, go.
Mice. Because I just walked into the kitchen just before recording this and saw one.
Ooh.
I know.
Mice aren't too bad. They're quite sweet.
Yes. And I said to Phoebe, I just saw the mouse in the kitchen. She said, what is that? And I said, what do you mean? She said, that word. I said, mouse. And I said, you know what it is? It's a small furry creature with 2 ears and a tail. She said, I thought it was mice. I said, no, it's only mice when there's more than one of them. And believe me, there always is more than one of them.
Well, that's true. They're hiding behind the, I was going to say wainscot. What do we call that thing? What do we call that thing? The skirting board. The skirting board. Yeah.
But they're definitely there. So what's your word of the week?
Hose.
Yes, you've been wrangling with hoses.
Yeah, I've caved in and I've bought some attachments, and they've all arrived today, including a gun. Since it's going to be boiling hot again tomorrow, 33, 34 degrees, I need some efficient watering functionality so I don't end up covered in mud and soaking wet all the time. At the very least, I have to take my shoes off because they're soaking.
Oh, horrid. No, horrid. You definitely need them better.
Yes. Anyway, I'm a woman with hose attachments, and it occurred to me I could take these with me when I move on the basis that I'm always going to need hose attachments.
That's true. You can't guarantee the hosiery will be...
No, hosiery, another word altogether, but hose gear. You look at me, I'm a woman with hose gear.
You're practically a gardener.
I know, practically. Actually, do you know, on a scale of 100, how much am I a gardener? About 3%.
Yeah, well, there's always...
Not. Did you see some very, very kind woman gave me 2 long lectures on how to water the garden properly? And I went, look, you're missing my point. This is my self-deprecating British sense of humour. I don't want to learn how to water a garden, okay?
I used to really enjoy watering my garden.
It can be very restful, and I'm thinking when I've got this gun attachment on later, I shall be, quite like a Bond girl, really.
Yeah. Oh, da-da.
Well, Claire, my niece had a gun, and it was easy.
Yeah, good stuff.
Gorgeous.
Project updates then.
Yeah, you go.
Okay. Your sighs on this.
Well, they're quite dull often, aren't they? I mean, the very words project updates just sound quite dull, I think.
Yes, well, it's one more section for us to talk in.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, so I've moved to Thinking. I love it. The clients are giving me really good feedback. I've just uploaded all the money gym stuff to it, which was, I surprised myself by how much content I had, even leaving out the stuff that was not so evergreen. And I just produced this document, as I told you, which is called Survive and Thrive to 2030. And I've put that in as well. And I've also started a private WhatsApp group, although I'm starting to think, because obviously WhatsApp's owned by Facebook, and you know how well I'm getting on with Facebook right now, that I might move it to Discord, which is a new social, well, new to me, social media app that is... you can set up your own server, but it's a bit like your own area.
Yeah.
And it was started by gamers. but it's not owned by any of the big tech companies. I did a bit of research.
I started on Discord, but we all moved across to Telegram after Discord. We didn't like Discord in the end. I don't know why.
It's nice and visual, though, whereas Telegram's not very visual, is it? It doesn't look.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. Whatever, doesn't matter, does it really?
Yeah.
But yes, anyway. I agree with you about WhatsApp. And I was going to say, I know we're not allowed to talk about these things, but did you see yesterday that all of the leaders of the big social media platforms were being quizzed by the American government? Did you see that?
Yes, and they've been asked. But also, apparently, as well as not being able to answer some of their more pointed questions, it's really showing up how little the people what's the Congress or Senate?
Yes. I'm not sure.
They know about tech and how it works. And
yeah. And actually, what was interesting yesterday was that I thought this was right, and I had to go and look it up to make sure it was. The issue yesterday was what the Americans called antitrust, which is what we call monopolies in the UK. Yeah. So the issue is that they've got a monopoly. So they can do what they like with it because we don't have very much choice.
Well, that was it. That was interesting because just after that's when I came across this Discord thing, and the only reason I came across it is because of a story I'm going to tell you in the last bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought, how come I never knew about this social media platform then?
Well, we have discussed it before. We have discussed it before because you were amazed that I knew what it was and was actually using it. But I've come off it now, and I've got everything on my financial forums. They all flirted with Discord, and then they decided that Telegram was better. I think it might have been security was the reason for that.
Oh, okay. So what about you then?
Done another question on my self-authoring project, which takes me up to 79% of the final module. Now, there are 8 goals in this final section, and the one I did was number 3. I'm feeling good about it. Progress is slow, which is not normally my preferred route, but it feels good for all sorts of reasons. I've got a lot on my plate right now. But interestingly, I did it yesterday, so I could tell you today I'd done it. The goal that I selected, it was, I've named my final 8 is care for me and care for others. And together I'm wondering why on earth am I bothering with the other 7, since that one precisely describes how and why I want to continue to live the rest of my life, which is the whole point of this. Anyhow, I'm going to soldier on because I am a completist and a good girl.
A good girl, yes.
Okay. I will. Hang on. Somebody at the front door, Nicola. Can you hang on?
Okay.
It's always very annoying when you go to the door and it's not for you.
Is that the man with the daughter?
That was yesterday's man with the daughter. Today there was 2 more, and I've had 2 people looking for a party and a courier who was very disappointed. It's quite normal, and in the end, clearly, yesterday's courier just dumped it on the doorstep because he couldn't bother to look for the right address.
A party on a Thursday?
No. Since I've been here, about once or twice a week, people come.
Uh-huh.
This wasn't a party today. It was 2 chaps with a box.
Okay. Right, well, I've got a story for you now.
Is this Who or What's Impressed?
Certainly is, yes.
Okay.
It's me who impressed myself.
Of course.
We love those, don't we?
We do.
This is a good story, though, right? So I'm going to try and tell it because it hasn't actually come to fruition yet, but it's very close. So I've got to be a bit circumspect. As you know, I am mildly obsessed with a certain American entrepreneur gentleman who is known for his shouty and sweary ways.
Sorry. Who is that?
I can't say.
Oh.
You know who it is.
I don't know who it is because there are so many men, the shouty American men you like.
Well, all right, Gary Vaynerchuk then.
Okay.
And he built his business, most people don't know this, with his brother AJ, who had to take some time off because he had a bad tummy problem, and it turned out to be Crohn's disease. So he's taken a year off, and he then came back and decided, I don't want to do social media for big brands anymore. I want to do something else. And what they absolutely love is sports. So he started a management and business management company division for managing basketball players because they're both mad about basketball. And this went on to baseball, and I think they've got some football players. And what they do is they don't try and get them their deals at the teams. What they do is they take them on once they've got a deal at a team, and they help them build their social media presence and then leverage their social media into things like sponsorship deals with big brands and things like that. So
this is what my nephew does for a living.
Oh, is it? Right.
This is about timepieces and You remember me saying to you, do you mean a watch? Do you mean a watch, Jeremy? Yeah, a timepiece. You know, they've got all these sprawlsy names for the products. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So then just about, and you know, obviously over the years, we bought 50 books off Gary Vaynerchuk. He did a video for us at one of our conferences. And so, you know, I've really kept up to date with what's going on in the company, because I find it fascinating that someone can build such a huge business, 1,000 employees, 5 offices around the world, etc., in 4 or 5 years. It's been amazing. And
Nicola, it's been much longer than that.
Not VaynerMedia, it hasn't. His Wine Library TV started in 2006, so he's been online since 2006. But VaynerMedia only started about 5 or 6 years ago at the max.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, last week or the week before last, they announced that they were starting a gaming division. And did anyone have any tips for up and coming gamers? Well, a certain relative of mine has a boyfriend.
Oh yes.
Who's a rather good gamer.
Yes.
So I reached out to said AJ and I said, I've got a tip for you. And it's all moving along, most interestingly. So I kind of say no more, but put it this way. I took the action. I reached out. I sent the email. I've been coordinating events ever since, and they're going to be talking.
What could the upside be?
Well, multi-million deals with brands. That's what the upsell.
For the boy or for you?
Yes. No, not for me.
Okay.
So
you've just been selfless, have you?
Uncharacteristically for me.
That's why I was clarifying, Nicola.
I haven't negotiated any deal in advance at all.
Yeah, know your worth, love.
Because I thought I actually thought on this occasion I want it to be free and clear and clean, and so that
yes, because it's family.
Because it's family.
Yes, good point. Yep.
And because also the said chap would be in a very good position to help my daughter with her YouTube channel.
Indeed.
So
yep.
I have made him aware that is my bride.
Yes, that's your hidden agenda.
Oh yeah, and I want to go to the meeting if they go to the London office.
Okay.
Just, because I'm nosy. So that was a really, really good fun. And I was the only down bit of this was when I actually had to call him to tell him that they were interested in talking to him, because he'd never heard of any of them. Oh God, he has got no idea how. Are
you saying you can go a long way in the world without ever having heard of Gary Vaynerchuk?
Yeah, apparently so. Yes.
Yes.
If you're under 20.
Well, Sabine will approve of that.
So I'm just fingers crossed that it all comes off, but it's looking very, very promising at the moment. So. And I just thought that was a nice story of how all my years of dedication have finally paid off. But that's not why I was so interested. I never knew that in the future there would be this opportunity.
Well, funnily enough, that that self-care for others and helping that man get his parcel yesterday, nothing brings me so much joy and doesn't detract from my self-worth and value as helping other people for free.
Yes. Yeah. It does. It makes you feel good.
It does. It's a marvellous, smiley feeling, isn't it?
I think getting taken advantage of, not so good, but helping willingly.
Well, there's a nice distinction. Am I being taken advantage of, or am I helping people willingly? Good one.
Yeah. What about you then?
I've got 2 in here.
Go on then.
So continuing the earlier story, my dead friend's cousin Roger and Ancestry.
Hang on, you have to slow down so I can picture it. Your dead friend's cousin Roger, right?
And Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
This is who and what's impressed me, because without both of those, I could never have been able to get as much detail about the story as I could, because Roger had uploaded the entire order of service, which had 2 photos in it of my pal as a young man, and another photo of him as a child, a Shropshire lad, in fact, which is where he was born and went back to and died, and he loved it there. And there's a book, as you probably know, called The Shropshire Lad, and somebody read an excerpt from that book. I could see at the funeral, I could see the hymns, a couple of corkers, I could see the Keane song, I could see the photographs, I could see where he was buried, and I know he would have loathed that much information being available online. And Roger is connecting me with the sister, which is great. I mean, Roger, what a chap. And Ancestry.com, not a bad resource either, although I had to sign up for a free 10-day thing in order to be able to see these documents. And I'm not sure I'll ever use it again, so I've got to remember to cancel that. That's my first one. My second one is a company that I found on Facebook, and they're called, I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea, but it's absolutely mine. It's called thenewco.com. The NUEco.com, And I ordered a natural sleep remedy for them because a few weeks back when I first got here, I wasn't sleeping very well. I've hardly had to use the remedy since it arrived because in the intervening days it had improved anyway. But they enclosed something in the envelope which I absolutely love. And well, not to mention that both packages in the envelope were beautifully packaged in this thick white textured cardboard with all the words all over it. Absolutely lovely. And it says on the back here, non-toxic, 100% vegan, cruelty-free, hexane-free, phthalate-free, and paraben-free, which I think would, a lot of people would enjoy that. And then it says inside, it's called Functional Fragrance. This is the freebie. This is an anti-stress supplement delivered in the form of fragrance. Apply to skin, inner wrists and neck. Inhale for a count of 8. Hold and exhale. Here, I haven't followed the instructions, but I do squirt it on myself most days. And I don't think of myself as a very stressed person, although clearly there has been rather a lot of stress in all of our lives lately. And even though the smell of it could be improved, I absolutely love the idea of this product and the product itself and everything else they sell because their packaging is beautiful, their ingredients are natural. I would say they're a little bit pricey, but not expensive. And this is a tiny little tester, and I will buy more and I will enjoy it.
Oh, very nice.
And of course, I have a client who makes perfume, so I was straight on to her and I insisted that we did video so that I could show her the beauty of the packaging and the wording and just everything about the execution.
Yeah, nice.
Absolutely right up my roue.
Yeah, lovely. Very nice. Well, my new iPhone came beautifully packaged as well. It was lovely.
I think we do know that they're not bad at that, don't we?
No, exactly. Well, that's us done then.
It is, yeah. See you next week.
Oh, absolutely. Bye.
All right,
bye. You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.